Welcome to Concerning Cremlings, a podcast where we dive deep into the vast expanse of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere and beyond. I'm Esther,
I'm Simon.
Elliot.
I'm Jonas.
and we are all going on a journey where we read the Cosmere in a year, in publication order. We're starting with Elantris, which is Brandon Sanderson's first published work. Simon, would you like to tell us a little bit more about Brandon Sanderson's publishing, etc.?
Yeah, so Brandon Sanderson published Elantris in 2005, but how it was his first published novel, but it was not the first novel he wrote. He actually wrote five novels before this. This was his sixth novel that he wrote, but it took six novels for him to actually get published. He got picked up by Tor Publishing, and a couple years later, uh, he published Elantris, and he just really hasn't stopped since then. He's published at least one book a year, probably more like two or three books every year since. And I guess now it's what 20 years since Elantris, which is
Yeah.
older than all of us,
No, yeah, literally.
uh, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but so this week we have read up through the prologue, from the prologue to chapter 21.
Yes.
So if you have not read that much, I would recommend not watching this video. Um,
No.
But if you have not read, if you've never read anything beyond Elantris, you are safe here. We won't be doing Cosmere spoilers. In
Yes.
this episode.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. You won't know. No, we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll probably do it for like Stormlight, but
Yes.
that's a long
Well,
ways
I'm
off. So
probably misformed, but that's literally like probably several months from now.
yeah,
Mistborn, Mistborn
or
is in 3 weeks.
Well, same,
but
same.
but we have White Sands and Warbreaker.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Warbreaker is before Mistborn? Oh, okay.
yeah,
All
what
right.
do we get first?
No, it's not. It's not.
Wait, oh
We
wait, no, wait, no, I'm wrong. We are doing Mistborn before Warbreaker.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Okay.
I was like, you guys
I just
gaslit me
gaslit
so hard.
everyone.
Yeah, we're like, sure, for sure.
Okay. Um, let's see.
Also good to have on
I'll edit
hand
that
is
out.
if you have this or if you want to check out from the library or find some version of it online. Arcanum Unbounded is just kind of like a bunch of Cosmere novels and extra maps and whatnot that can be really helpful if you're trying to enter the Cosmere and understand how it all connects and whatnot. So we'll be referring to some stuff in there. And then some of the other stuff we got is just like fan art from Pinterest or Google. And we'll have their like at handles in the like last slide if you
At
want
the
to.
end.
Yeah. So, okay, we ready to get into it or do we have some other comments?
I think we should just jump in.
All right.
Oh,
So,
I got something to say.
okay, we're ready.
Oh, actually, oh,
Simon, you go first.
I was just gonna say we should give our overall thoughts of the like what we read. Did we
Oh,
like it
okay.
or not like it? Yeah. Um,
Yeah, Simon, you want to go first?
so this was a reread for me. I really enjoyed it the first time. I think I gave it like 5 stars on Goodreads, but this time, I probably wouldn't give it 5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it. Um, Brandon Sanderson's worlds are always amazing to return to. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I definitely think he made a good decision with this being his first book. Like, I think we talked about in episode 0 how much we love Way of Kings and how that's his best work, but like just kind of almost doing like a soft launch of his writing, I think is really cool with Elantris, because it's just a really fascinating world. It's easy to understand. You don't really have to know a lot of other like Cosmere lore to understand it. Or like there's not really a lot of like investiture and stuff. So it's like a really just a nice novel, I feel
I,
like.
I, I still have no idea what investor is, to be honest.
We'll talk
Hey,
about all that
Yeah, we'll talk about all
later.
you,
We'll get into that.
yeah.
Jonas, you go first. You go before me.
that. Yeah, you're gonna.
Um, yeah, this is my second time from rereading it. Well, not second time rereading it, but first time rereading it, second time reading it, and yeah, I am always fascinated by how quickly he sets that hook, line and sinker, and it's just, as I don't want to, I guess you can't really spoil the beginning, but um, the beginning chapter with Hrathen, which is how I pronounce him, and with just, the effects of that, entire scene. It just sets the stage wonderfully, the setting, and also it doesn't just do something like that. Just sets a bland setting. It sets a like an enticing setting, like Tolkien did when he said, they lived in the ground, in a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. It's just you're like, what? Like, I want to learn more. So that's just kind of how I always loved the beginning. And then I just kind of love the character arcs of his, all of his characters and how he alternates. So yeah, I also love and hate the cliffhangers.
Yes, for sure.
Wait, you love and hate what?
The cliffhangers, he said.
Yeah, he
Oh,
has
yeah,
awesome
for sure.
cliffhangers, which makes me so mad because then I just
Wait,
Yeah,
where are there like in the book?
yeah, in books,
yeah,
Like
like
at
chapter
with
least the beginning.
cliffhangers?
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, he's really good at the multiple. If you read more of his works, you'll know like he's really good at the multiple voice like
for
narrative
sure.
idea. Like, and so he will leave it on a cliffhanger with that person's perspective and then take you to another person. And then you're just like, that makes you want to read more because you want to find out what's happening to the other person. And then it's just like a continuous cycle because you're like trying to figure out what's
Yeah.
happening.
It's like
Yeah, and it makes the book feel shorter than it
it's kind
actually
of
is.
yeah. Okay, my turn. I have never read Elantris before. I'm the only one who hasn't, and so far it's about what I expect it to be. It's kind of rough. It's his first book. I think uh Brandon Sanderson is really good. He's like known for his hard magic systems, and I think the magic honestly, it's not in this one so far really too much. We're kind of getting glimpses at it, but I think it's set up to be something really cool, and we're spoiling immediately, right?
Yeah,
Like
for what
what
we
we're
read, for what we've read up to. So if you have
that
not
part.
read up to chapter 21, get
I
away.
think yeah, it was this when it was I think it was like chapter 20 or 19 or something. I think it was 19 because it was a Rowden chapter. But um, it was like when he was the flashback of during Elantris, and um, his parents brought him to be healed, but then it like still hurt. That was cool. I'm excited to see where that goes because I don't know where that goes. But yeah, I think all right. Oh, so far it's all right. I would so, but yeah,
Yeah. Um,
Well, yeah.
yeah, I definitely feel similarly. Like it's good. It's very flawed, but I don't care. Like
Yeah.
personally, like I still enjoy. I'm along for the ride, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Very. All right.
we get started.
woo.
All right. I'll put us in the middle so that we can read it. Okay, so obviously Elantris used to be a wonderful utopia where gods walked among men. 10 years ago, the Raod is how you pronounce it, right?
Mhm.
Struck.
Rate. Oh. Yeah, sorry, you go.
Okay, no, you're good. Which turned all the Elantrians into horrible wretches. So this was like the event that basically changed the trajectory of Elantris. And now there's this thing called the Sheod, which is a random event that can transform ordinary humans into Elantrians. But it's not a good thing to be an Elantrian anymore because you have this like horrible uh sickness thing that you can get, and then like your skin is super like blotchy, and you eventually end up being like alive but dead at the same time. It's really weird.
It's like
yeah,
zombies.
it's like
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
turn
Zombies without
the
But your
Hip-hop.
brain is normal. But your brain is normal.
Yeah.
to
yeah,
quote Michael Scott, how the turntables, it's like
Yeah.
they were once gods and now they're the
Right.
yeah, for sure.
churches.
Wait. Hmm.
Not okay, so also they weren't, you know, gods that had immense power. They were just able to and exercise a form of magic.
Yeah, they
Let's
were
just
given maybe, yeah,
This is
powers.
interesting.
Yeah,
that's the
they weren't.
definition
They
of
weren't.
why.
Yeah, they
Was
weren't
it?
capital. They weren't capital G gods. They were
Because
lowercase g gods.
they follow Shu Korath, right? Or the Lantern
No, I think the Elantrians were their own thing.
for their
I
own
They
being.
don't
were.
think they've.
Were they? Does it mention? Were
I don't.
they were they like, oh yeah, we're gods, or were people like, whoa, they're so powerful, and then the people started
I
worshiping
think it
them?
was both. I think it was that they were very prideful.
Kind of like how the Jedi were prideful.
The
Yeah.
like
No,
enabled that.
the Jedi were
Sorry.
not prideful. That,
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
Mm-mm.
that started a tangent. Okay.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Next slide.
And then this slide is obviously our main character, Sarene, and what I would assume to be Hrathen in the background.
Surrender.
Yeah, that's Hrathen.
Sarene.
What do you guys think of the cover? This is the cover. So like,
I love the cover personally. I think it's so cool.
It's the walls of Elantris are, like gargantuan. Like they just tower over City
It
of
is.
K,
It's
Kai.
similar how I imagine it, kind
Yeah.
of a little bit.
yeah, I love how it captures the walls. But I don't know, for me, the color palette just throws me off. I don't like the greens and yellows. I don't know.
Really,
It's just kind of gross to me.
it
But
feels,
otherwise,
yeah.
yeah, I love like that Hrathen and Sarene are there, and
Is
the Seance are cool.
Wait, oh, are these the
Like,
sounds?
do you hate the green and yellow because you're a Lions fan?
Oh, this is true.
If only. No, it's just like it looks like gross green and the yellow, you know?
It does,
Yeah.
like
I,
green and
I don't
yellow.
know.
That's not clean. I guess maybe it's trying to give up because like
yeah,
Elantris is dirty and there's a bunch
True.
of sludge.
true.
Yeah. It's just not very appealing to my eye.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know.
also a quick question. Just
Hmm.
did the Elantrians have um cleaning magic? So like with their with the Aeons, were they
Yeah.
able to clean?
I thought that's
Or
what they had.
I
or
think
was it
so.
just all of the slaves?
No, I think
Well,
they didn't have cleaning supplies in the city, remember?
Did they have slaves? Yeah, they
Pre
did.
pre
did they have
pre-showed.
slaves?
This is all pre-showed.
I don't think they had.
Pre pre-railed. What? Wait, right?
Railed,
You mean
pre-railed,
pre-railed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
pre-railed. Yes.
Pre-railed. Because of the showed. No, because of the railed, the showed
Is
became the
Yes.
bad.
out.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah.
Hode. Yes.
Hoed.
Hode.
Hoed.
Hoed. Hoed.
Not Hoyd. Not Hoyd.
Hoyd. Not
Wait,
Hoyd.
wait,
Not yet.
let's not say the other
We
pronunciation.
might have to have a pod, just an entire episode
Yeah,
about him.
yes, we could do like an interludes of sorts, but it's just about Hoyd. But that's like after.
Yeah.
Or other people like, Chris or uh Z Z yeah.
Okay, let's
Yeah, yeah.
okay, moving on.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Next.
I'm trying to figure out. We'll move our viewing around so that they can read it. Okay.
Right.
So, we want to walk through. Who wants to walk us through the first part of the timeline? Jonas, do you want to talk to us about Shayad coming upon Raoden?
Yeah, so as you may already know, Raoden is the a if you've read the first few chapters, he is a prince, but he gets struck by the Shade. He's then kicked into Elantris, as the most kingdoms do. As Elantris, if you're covered in uh like a leprous
Yeah.
condition, you don't want to be around people. People don't want to be around you. So he's you know then he's kicked into that, and then he still decides to not descend into madness like the other Elantrians did, and to become a leader like a true prince. So
Yeah.
I think this is here's my first gripe.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I feel like it's not brought up enough. The fact that like the shared like it could just happen to anyone at any time. I feel like if that happened to our actual society, everyone would just be like terrified of it. They would always be in fear of it, and it would like
Well,
I
how
think
common is it though?
it seems pretty common.
yeah,
It seems pretty
isn't there a
common.
back
It's
to the
like,
book
but
has kind
it's
of
just
stuff like
like
that?
one person out of like I don't know, 50,000 people. Like usually one person like a week. It's not very common, I feel like.
No,
Or
no.
yeah,
They had like three people at once.
But
but
they
then
stressed that that was very rare.
but that
yeah.
was a lull. But there was a lull afterwards.
I
So
also
it's
think
Right.
like
that if it's been happening for 10 years, I mean, imagine like how quickly people freaked out about COVID, but now people are just kind of like, eh, like it's not gonna kill you now. Obviously, it's extremely
No,
different.
Imagine if COVID still killed you. Imagine if, because
I
it's
mean,
like we got a vaccine, but we didn't. There's no Shayota vaccine.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, I guess, yeah, it's not, like I said, it's still not the same, but like, people are just gonna grow callous to whatever is happening that's a tragedy because you just adapt to your new life.
Well, also just as like I don't want to be political, but there's no if you get COVID, you can get what's it called after you build up immunity and
There's,
herd immunity. You
yeah,
can
if
get herd
everyone,
immunity from certain sicknesses, and there's no herd immunity from shale, so it's not even like
Yeah.
that would help.
Yeah, I feel yeah, I understand that there is definitely gonna be paranoia when that happens. I don't
yeah,
know. Sweet.
yeah, but then Sarene, who is the princess of Teod, they really like their ode names,
I
um,
know.
arrives in Arlon,
I
and
think
which
it's
is
part of the religion.
where Prince Raoden was the prince, but no longer is. She was betrothed to him, as I'm sure if you've read, you would know. And the betrothal specifically stated um that she would still have to be technically married to him if he died before she actually got there. And so she still has to live in Arlon and she's taking over Raoden's estates and that kind of stuff. Um but yeah, so she's trying to figure out like how she can blend in. She like had really been found her way, like working her way up in the Teod political like sphere, and she just really enjoyed like debating and like that kind of stuff. And so she's trying to figure out how to make her connections and figure out like where she can be making her moves on this new political scale. So, yeah.
Hmm.
And she also wants answers because she's like, my husband died, and everyone's just kind of just like acting like it's not a big deal.
Yeah. She doesn't believe that he just died.
Yeah. So
She,
they
she
said it was
thinks
kind of
she
over.
thinks he was murdered.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Which,
Okay, here's a problem.
yeah.
Should I wait?
I
Should I
mean,
wait?
well, yeah, just wait because we're just summarizing the story right now.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Hrathen, who
ne
wants to Hrathen?
I can go through Hrathen.
Okay.
So, our third viewpoint character, Hrathen, the Gjorn of Fjordell, has been given 3 months to convert the nation of Arolan, or else it will be destroyed by the holy wrath of his god Jadith. So with Hrathen, we get introduced to a whole another country or nation of Fjordell, which is very, very uber religious, and they're like zealots, religious zealots, and they think they want to convert everyone in the world or kill them. So I'm sure you could draw real world parallels to that if you wanted to. I don't think that's Sanderson's goal with this, um, but so he's given 3 months to convert the people Arlon, which is leads to a very interesting structure where it's like a ticking time bomb, is how Sanderson describes it, where we now know that there's only like 80 days or so left, or else there's this threat looming over all of Arlon, and so that's where Sarene comes in. She wants to stop Hrathen.
Should I do the fourth one now?
Yeah, I just was gonna say really quickly though. So note too that it's Shu Dareth, right? That's his religion, and he is
Yes.
from Shu Korath, which everyone like they're like arch enemies, like they hate each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a really intense rivalry there. And also Hrathen was involved with with this like big fallout and like riot that happened. Was it in Duladel?
Yeah, it was Duladel, yeah.
Yeah. Duladel, where a lot of people died. A
Yeah,
lot of
and
people
it was,
died.
he does not have a good track record, and so he's trying to figure out how can I make this go more successfully this time, as opposed to having it turn horribly and the people freak out and turn on him. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Rowden.
Raoden.
Rowden, it's like a Galadon. Start forming a gang. So they like, uh,
To transform Elantris into a communist society.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so true. They like get people and they kind of, I don't know, everyone's kind of like, wow, Rowden, you're so special. I'm gonna follow you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. And then they like they so the kind of the situation in Elantris is there's three like big gangs. There's what's her name? Karina, Katara,
Karada.
Yeah.
Karada,
Karada.
Katara, Karada,
And then that
Katara,
one guy who thinks he's
and then
Aang Den, I think.
Aendan, Aendan. Sorry.
The crazy one.
yeah,
And then what's the third guy?
Shayor, but we don't know much about him yet.
Fair, we
yeah.
don't. So
Or her.
like, Katara was she instantly, well, not instantly, but or is that later? No, that's not later. Um, they kind of join up after they both realize, oh, you're both kind of good guys, and
Mhm.
then Rowden, he's like, he recognizes Andin, who is a sculptor. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
confused. Earlier, he was like, I recognize that guy. He's a sculptor named Aondel. And then later, he calls him Tan.
Well, no. So Aang Den was he made up that name when he went to Elantris,
Right.
and when Raoden saw him in person, he recognized him as Taeyong.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I was confused by that because I thought he said he was Aondel.
No,
yeah.
Aang Den's a made up name.
But
Uh,
then he basically gets Tan to join him up. But then there's this problem because most of Tan's men go to Share,
Shayor,
and
yeah.
so that's and then they form a communist society with corn, as you do.
and children.
There's
Yes. Oh yeah,
children.
and the children. Yeah,
There's
the
children.
children in Elantris that they have like, and they give the extra food to them, or most of the.
I really liked that moment though when uh, uh Raoden went on his adventure with Karada,
Oh, I
and
know.
like at the end of the chapter, she showed him all the children that she was like keeping safe. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Then there's like all the Hode children who are like
Yeah.
Do you
The
think children grow up as, or
Hode.
do you think they grow? Like, do you think they have, you know, you
well
know,
the
like
That's
you
a good
share
know, like
question.
there's the
Oh,
criteria of life and biology. So if
yeah.
they're not alive, then they probably wouldn't grow.
well,
But the
that's
Mm.
share doesn't affect you maybe their bodies wouldn't grow, but it doesn't
Yeah,
affect you
Right. Well, yeah,
mentally, it doesn't
you
seem.
could be like,
how
that's a
would
good
that
question.
happen? Because it's like if their brain isn't working normally, they're not being able to secrete enough growth hormone to actually grow, especially if they're not getting food and they're malnourished. So like that to
But
me
they
is
get
sorry,
they
continue.
get enough. Sorry, they get enough energy from the. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if this is
Door?
spoilers,
What's it called?
but they get enough energy from the door to sustain their life.
Yeah, they talked about that a little bit.
Okay, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, I
Is
guess I'm
that
just like I've read this before, but I'm like, wait, this I'm a little bit foggy. So yeah.
the door is it's everywhere. It's not in us, but it is us.
it's the Force.
It's the force.
Force.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, Star Wars.
I mean, at this point, like, if you can't, I don't want to say like you can't make anything without stealing, or
You
like,
can't,
or
impossible.
but it's like, okay, it has another one of his books. Brandon Sanderson actually uses one of his characters to uncover this, but basically to talk about this. Basically, the point is like it's still art, even though you take an idea. And I think Tolkien's famous for taking ideas from like Norse, Greek, and um, I guess you could say Roman, but other kinds of mythology. You know, and so Brandon Sanderson completely invents kind of new ish kind of magic, but you know, he still takes a little bit of that idea of this kind of magic being everywhere. Whereas Harry Potter, it's like, oh, it comes from a wand, or it's just individual to one person has that magic, you know, and muggles versus non all that kind of stuff. So I still think he it was this kind of cool way to for his magic to go, but yeah, he did kind of use that kind of framework for his magic.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then do you guys have any more thoughts? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Should I
Okay,
keep
go
going?
ahead. Oh,
So,
okay.
Serene? Sorry, is that how you say it?
Sarene.
Serene?
Sarene.
Serene. She meets Keen?
Kind. Kind.
Kind. Kind. I got there. Um, Kine, who's her uncle, which is crazy, because and there's something going on there because her uncle left 10 years ago, right around the time of Elantris fall. Connection? Who knows? I don't know actually. There might be. I might just be completely wrong. But and we know they don't like. There's a scene where Sarene is talking to her father, Eventio, and she's like, you know, Kine's here, and he's like, don't speak of him to me. He's really grumpy.
Yeah, there's
But
some bad blood that we don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, we haven't said that
we
yet.
don't know yet. But you probably know because what I don't think anyone on Earth would like read a book halfway through and be like, I'm gonna find a video halfway through. But
Yeah, yeah. We
it's
need to
fine.
definitely gap about it though.
Yeah.
I feel like most people watching this are
You've
are
you've probably
probably
read
either
it all.
complete
Yeah.
or either ignored our warnings and chose to have a synopsis and one see a description or finish the entire book. But
Yeah. Hey, but if you watched halfway, if you're reading, if you're halfway through, hit that subscribe button, hit like, comment, let me know.
Um, so so Rene joins a group of revolutionary idealists, and in order to change the mercantile government, and this is a kind of a section of the book where Sanderson really gets deep into the politics of this world, and a lot of it is fascinating. And what did you guys think of that? Like all the different political stuff and like the different characters. It mentioned like there's a Jindo guy. So that
Shooting,
there's like a yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
you
sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We've obviously gushed about how we love how Sanderson writes his different political atmospheres or really anything. But yeah, I think it's interesting how each of his books and like worlds, I guess, has its own like unique approach to government or any part of it, I guess. And yeah, I think it's really interesting the whole idea that because essentially didn't once the Raod happened, um, 10 years ago is when Iadon was able to become king because the Elantrians had just kind of been ruling over stuff.
yeah,
And, and
it's also like
we're like, oh, we're gonna have like a government of the people, but in reality, it's like it's only
Wh-
if you're rich that you actually.
Whoever
Yeah,
the richest.
it was like the richest merchants. They like they thought Iodon was the best choice because he was like the best merchant, I guess.
Yeah.
And I
I
don't know.
think
it's like
That's
I
that's
really,
interesting.
I do really
economical.
like. Sorry, are you speaking?
I'm just gonna say like one quick thing
Yeah.
about how like he Sanderson really he just kind of explores different kinds of governments and likes to just make all this kind of stuff. I think that's one of his little hobbies in his books. But yeah, he did people picked Iodon for his economic knowledge, not
Hmm.
for anything else.
Mhm.
I I do like this kind of. I find it. I like it. One of what I liked was this kind of regressing society because like the Lantern Society was like everyone. And I'm pretty sure maybe I got this wrong. Everyone's like equal, right?
Maybe in name, but not entirely.
Not entirely, but that's what it's supposed to be. I think generally you would see that's how like it was talking about how like there was like there was farmers who were like educated and like people, but then there's this society that's kind of regressing back to like the time of serfs and like there's like peasants and there's like no. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think we see in the scene where Sarene walks like through the street on her way to the monastery, or is it to not the monastery, the temple or something.
Hmm.
She's on her way and she passes through and it's literally like she sees, what's left of Arelon's middle class. And it's a very like interesting scene because you can just see like how desperate they are like for money and for yeah, because they if they don't have that they can't support their families.
Yeah.
And so you really see how in like how like bad off the citizens of Arlon are underneath Iadon's leadership. And so they're probably desiring for this change, which is why they're like, yeah, we're okay with this random Yorn coming in and doing stuff, like
Hmm.
like they're
We have, sorry, we have 3 minutes left. Do we want to, uh,
go ahead.
should we,
let's read the last
we have three
timeline thing.
minutes.
I know we can just read it.
Okay. You
Yeah.
To
read,
finish the summary.
Yeah, speaking of Hrathen, then this sparks Hrathen has a rivalry with his Arteth Dilaf and Sarene, which is obviously we've talked about her. However, he is determined not to let Jadeth murder an entire nation of innocent people, like we talked about that had happened before in Duladel.
Beginning of his character arc too. That's why I was saying that.
Yeah. I think for me, Hrathen's chapters are the best part of the book. They're the most interesting.
His
They're the most,
perspective
yeah, they're the most
is
dynamic. And he has a very compelling character where he's such a strong person in his values and what he thinks is right. And he's like, he what he's doing, he thinks is truly right. And I think that's just such an interesting shade to put onto a villain, especially when you're in their head all the time. And it's like I don't think I can say Harathan's a bad person because like he doesn't want these innocent people to die, and that's really what's motivating him, I think.
Yeah. I think
okay,
what's is
sorry.
like I'll just be quick. But yeah, I think that what's interesting is like we said, this maybe isn't his best book ever, but like Hrathen is one of his really well-written villains. I think you see if you read more of his books that he does that really well, where it's not necessarily that the lines are blurred, but it's just kind of like it makes you think through, hey, they're actually a person and they truly believe what they're doing is important to them. And
it's yeah, like the one of the things I cannot stand for in books is two-dimensional villains.
Mm,
Villains that don't have villains like that's what Marvel unfortunately does sometimes,
yeah.
where it's like, I must do this because I want to destroy all mankind. It's like I have no,
Thanos was right.
questions about what's right or wrong ever. It's like, okay, they're
Um,
just a psychopath. There's no depth there.
Hold on. What happened?
that's really believable, Simon. I mean, Elliot. I
Where's
would have
Simon?
never known.
Okay.
some technical troubles later. We are back
Yeah.
talking about the planet Cell. So this is the planet that Elantris takes place on, and it is in the solar system of the Cosmere.
Yeah.
Um,
Which, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a precursor. There's multiple planet systems in the Cosmere, so this is just
And you can find this in Arcanum Unbounded on the first few pages. It talks about the Celish system.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Um,
Arlon, which is where our story takes place, and Teod are just having some tension, as most countries are. It's just a very time for high political tension, and the marriage that was supposed to happen between Sarene and Raoden was supposed to take place in order to kind of help with that. But obviously that didn't really happen, so
No.
because he's dead anyway, or supposedly.
Okay, moving on.
All right, next.
moving on. Okay. So now we're gonna talk about the prose and structure of the book. Um,
Oh boy. Sorry.
I guess this is gonna be controversial.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, can I
so
talk? All right.
yeah, Sanderson.
So,
Yeah.
Sanderson, ooh, you talk to a lot of different people. I think they'll all agree that Sanderson's prose isn't really his strongest suit. Like, you're like, I don't think it's ever atrocious. Okay, maybe in what? Maybe it's atrocious in Wind and Truth, but um, a lot. He describes it as like Tolkien is like a stained glass window, very flowery, very, and he's like just a clear window. He's just you see get what you see. Okay, that's true, but I think that's boring, and I think I don't know. I feel like there's times. So, like for example, Dune. Dune has very simple prose, but it lends to that because Dune is super complex. It's got like there's so much terminology and so much confusing things happening that like okay, you need this basic prose
But
or else
to be fair, there's a lot of complexity in happening and a lot of terminology happening in Sanderson's books that
I don't
if
Yeah.
you
I don't
had
I don't
what
think there's enough to
Well,
earn that simple
I
prose.
also want to say like this is I don't know if you ever feel this way, but like whenever I read a book and says this is if there's time is of the essence like this kind of thing where Raiden knows you know he has only a little bit more time before he kind of descends into more pain or if and there's actually a 3 month limit that Hrathen has. So he can't. So he. This is kind of like it's very fast paced, and you're not going to say if I'm if I'm saying something super fast. I don't really have time to say much of read like I would say like Trust of the Emerald Sea. It's a very like slow, relaxed book. Whereas this one, I kind of feel like if the narrator was telling it to you, it would be not on a slow, it would be kind of like faster paced. That's just me. I don't know why I get that feeling, but that's just me.
yeah, I see that. And this book is structured uh differently than any other book he's ever written. Because he has an alternating triad of POVs with Rhaedan, Sarene, and Hrathen with no exceptions. This is as Jonas was saying, this lends to a very unique pacing that I think generally Sanderson balances each POV pretty well. Sometimes they'll blend into each other. Like you'll see in a Raiden chapter, uh, he'll look up at the wall and see Hrathen talking to Sarene, and then in the next chapter you'll get that conversation. So I think there's some neat things that he can do
Yeah.
with that. Um, as far as the prose goes, this is my opinion on a prose. I hope we don't talk. I feel like we shouldn't spend very much time talking about the prose because because like every book is pretty much the same except for Watt. Um, that's
I
interesting.
I do think no, I noticed from like Mistborn, it does seem a little rougher around the edges than Mistborn and like Stormlight from what I've read. Because I mean, obviously this is his first book, and I'm like, there's some lines that are like, should you have said that, Brandon? Should you have done that?
Yeah, I think the dialogue and uh it's like sentence by sentence is generally a little more um not as polished as what we see in like Mistborn even.
Right.
Um but my opinion of his prose in general is that he's writing how he wants to write and he's getting across what he wants to get across.
Yeah.
Um and if you don't you just have to be okay with that. And if you're not then stop
Right.
reading. And
I mean, honestly, we're not reading it because we think that the prose is out of this world. We're
Yeah.
reading it because he's so good at world building and so good at like having all these worlds interconnect. Like we're reading it for the
Mhm,
creativeness and like fantasy uh ideas. Like we're not necessarily reading it for the actual writing
for
style.
sure.
So like if you don't want that, then I guess don't read Brandon Sanderson.
I know. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Um,
Prose is a big
what?
thing for you. Don't read them.
Yeah, you can leave now, I guess.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Make sure to
One.
subscribe before you leave, though.
Yeah, before you
Yeah,
leave.
you'll get notifications from
Bro,
us.
don't even have to put notifications on. We just need the subscribers.
Yeah.
Oopsies. My bad. I wanted to say one more thing about the structure
Yeah.
before we moved on. I thought it was interesting in reading Brandon's annotations on this book. He said that. Oh, I think I forgot. Or sorry. He said that while he liked writing the triad structure, he never wants to do it again, which
Yes,
is
I
interesting. And his reasoning was that sometimes in the middle of a book, it can help with the pacing to have like a couple random chapters in a row and
yeah.
then cut back to Serenity or something like that. So I thought that was interesting and worth noting.
Yeah, I mean it shows like because I think he wrote those maybe a year or a couple months after he wrote the book. But yeah, he like you can definitely tell he has regrets about how he did
That's
that.
like
That's
when,
everything.
sorry, I wrote a movie script last year, and I did a very strict. I don't. It was mainly because I was lazy, but I just did like, okay, so there's two POVs, like two character. There's two like groups of characters, and I did the first act was one group, and the second act was the other group, and it was not good. It was like, so you have like one group going into like, so it was like first group. Sorry, this is kind of a sidetrack. First group, first group, it was like first group, second group, then climax with both the groups, and so it was bad pacing because you'd end Act One with the first group heading into the climax, and then the second group would then you go back to the very beginning of the story, and it just cuts all tension.
Which is very interesting because Peter Jackson, when he made about me wondering, well, why does the books when he made the movies he has Return of the King? Well, there were some events that were strictly in Two Towers, the book, or the Return of the King, and he realized I want to have equal perspectives of Frodo and Sam, and then which sorry if you haven't read Lord of the Rings,
Too
but he
bad.
wants but he wants equal perspectives, whereas Tolkien doesn't completely do equal, portions for focusing on this element of, the characters, and then if he didn't really do that, so Peter Jackson wanted to have, boom, 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 just every other instead of just doing, um, a lot right here and then a lot of material about this thing over here, like
For
what
sure.
Elliot did for his movie script.
Yeah, I think we talked about Sarene a little bit, but obviously we said she's the Princess of Teod. Um, she had a great family that she came from. She's our female protagonist, and she's older, so like there's a lot of themes in the book of her being like, or a lot of times where she's like, "Oh, I'm 25 and I didn't get married by the time I was
Such an
18."
old maid.
Yeah,
She's an
literally,
old maid.
she called
Yeah,
herself an old maid, and you're
that's
like,
I
good.
to us that's crazy, but at the same time like when you're especially like I feel like when you're in obviously that time period but also like the world and how they operate, like if you aren't married you're just kind of like yeah you're just still with your parents because there's no way for you to like support
yeah,
yourself and everything.
especially as a woman.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And so
I
she's
think
super practical and logical. She talks about how like that kind of got her into a position where guys were just kind of intimidated by her and like didn't actually want to approach her. And
yeah,
so the guys that would have dated her were already betrothed at that point, and so she was like, "Oh shoot, I lost my chance, and I'm never getting married." But yeah,
yeah. I
um,
thought it was. I liked how this goes for Raiden too, which we'll talk about in a second. I liked how his main characters, at least in this book, besides Hrathen, are just like normal people. They don't have like uber traumatic backgrounds. Okay, yes, they're royalty, so I guess they're not totally normal, but they're just like I guess they're just well-adjusted adults that are just like thrust
yeah,
in these situations. I think that's nice. I think that's cool.
yeah.
it's a
I think we talked about
contrast.
that like
Yeah,
over maybe like we were all saying how it's funny because like if you read his other books, you have like this intense trauma. I mean, it's not funny.
yeah,
It's definitely interesting. Like he really writes, and like that's really cool how he's able to write about that in like a good way. But I think for this book, you're able to really relate to the characters because yeah, they're just like regular individuals. But yeah. Anyway, so any more thoughts
yeah.
on that or Raiden or whatever?
Yeah, I'll just say Raiden. He's the main protagonist of the book. And he's just like such a lot of people think call him just or say he's just like a nothing burger, I guess, because he's just kind of like there, I guess. And I don't know if I totally agree, but he is definitely just he's not as unique a character as someone like Kaladin or like Dalinar, but I think he serves his purpose well, and I like him having him in the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because yeah, his family dynamic is obviously a little bit different than Sarene, but like I think it's really sweet, like I don't know, like you said, to have not only normal characters, but like just to see him just really like there's a term that we use in our house a lot called just like perceiving the need, which means you're just always like thinking about how you can be serving others and looking out for others around you. And he just really lives by that motto, even though I don't know that that was necessarily like represented well to him through other people, but he's just always so others minded and just a very like sweet character. And I think that that's really maybe like just because he doesn't have a crazy story that people just don't maybe like
Yeah.
find that interesting, I guess.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Which
Anyway,
We don't.
honestly, yeah, which is kind of why he kind of pairs well with Sarene because
yeah.
she's she's not like I don't want to say she's not a leader, but like she's they're both like definitely in their letters they're kind of matched and everything. But if you're others minded, you make a great leader. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. He's definitely a strong leader.
Hmm.
All right. Next we have
Oh, yes.
Hrathen. This is he's the best character in the book. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree. Um, Hrathen's
Mm,
awesome.
actually, I disagree.
Oh, who's your
No,
favorite? Don?
no, I'm joking. He
Oh,
is
okay.
good.
Yeah. We talked about him already with in our summary, but
So, edit. I needed to put Jadith, not Domai. So, RIP.
no, you're good. But yeah, I mean, I think we already talked about him a little bit, like enough. He's compelling.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, he's just a very interesting viewpoint. I've never been bored. I was never bored reading his chapters. I love his conflict with Delof.
Yes.
I think that's really good.
Yeah. I think it's interesting as we go on, we like see kind of the idea of like belief perseverance kind of like played out because Hrathen is someone who does actually have a kind of crazy background. And so you see how affected he is by that. And as far as like we don't know that much about him, but like we know about his conflict in Duladel. And so like that then informing his decisions now and him kind of going on a path of like what do I even believe? What do I know? Like I'm living a lie. Like what should I do? Like that kind of thing. Wherein on the outside he's projecting this like crazy infatuation with religion.
yeah, yeah, which is how
Yeah,
he actually I think we don't have Dilaf's perspective,
Hmm.
but we do know that he's kind of he has a little bit of which I want to say psychosis, but like he's just weird and just really he's not passionate in a good way. So it kind of just makes you think he doesn't really question.
yeah,
Whereas Hrathen, he always chooses this is intellectual, this is logical, this is so he has to
yeah.
struggle with it a little bit.
Hmm.
When I was getting a lot of Hitler vibes when reading Delof scenes, like when he's yelling
That's
at the crowd,
true.
rallying them up.
That's so true.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Which I think if you're I know Jadith kind of has a weird it's not the greatest religion ever, just because
Mhm.
it's, kill will kill you if you don't believe
mhm,
in this. I think that Hrathen, like a true believer of anti-erosion, though, should not question, like not rebel, but like should
Yeah.
question it and see is this a
Sure.
correct religion and find answers. And I think that's a true, not disciple, but disciple of religion, because you'll find out, if that religion is truly stable, um, and that's what he's trying to do. So I think that's
yeah,
pretty
Yeah.
admirable.
I mean, I think
That
we see people in real life that just don't question that and they just kind of go along with what they've been told. That belief doesn't last or make an impression in them for a long period of time. It fizzles
mhm,
out. They don't have like a real reasoning for why they should believe that.
yeah. Um, Next we have Galadon, who is kind of Raoden's sidekick in this story. Um, so one thing with Galadon that's interesting about him is so when Brandon Sanderson was writing the book, his Galadon's original name was Galerion, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Um, but as Brandon was writing the book, he started developing the Duoladel culture around Galerion, and by the time he finished writing the book, he kind of like had developed the like different linguistic uh, um, characteristics of the Duolingo, and so he realized Galarian's actually a pretty terrible name. So he changed it to Galdon, which was interesting to me.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some tidbits there.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting the little snippet that he talks about how like he was not in Elantris or not in Arlon when he had the Shade come upon him, right? Like he had to run
Yeah,
to
he
Elantris.
was he was I think he was close to Arlon.
Yeah.
He was like as close as he could to being in Arlon, but also not being Arlon, I think. Yeah.
Which is because they hint near the end that it's like location based, not just blood based, but like
Yeah.
there's some like power source, right? Right, they talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
think
make that
so.
up.
Hmm. Okay, next we get to talk about relationships.
Wait, did we
Woohoo.
already talk about Dilaf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might have zoned out, it's okay. Okay, my one thing. Okay, so first of all, if you have any other thoughts, sorry, I just need to say this before I forget. So Sarene and Hrathen, they talk about how they've never really seen each other, but then they talk about how King Evanto, he is a floating head when he's on talking through the Sion, right? So then
Hmm.
why haven't they seen each other?
No, I think they've seen each other. They just mean in person.
So they mean like
They
they
talk
have,
about their
They've
relationship
seen.
started just through like writing letters, and then they're
yeah.
like, we should see on video chat.
We
Yeah,
should
they
say
started
Yeah.
FaceTiming.
that.
We started FaceTime,
Yeah.
and then I have something to say. Okay, I was going to say about Serene. Immediately, just like being like, she walks in, they're like, Raridan's dead, and she's like, hold on, something's not right. And
I
I'm
would
like,
though.
I
That
don't
would
know.
my first thought would not be like, oh, all of a sudden he's dead when I'm supposed to get here and we're supposed to have this marriage. That worked out nice.
And they
Now
didn't give
Rhoden's
a
not gonna be king.
good a reason
Yeah.
why.
Like what like he died of influenza essentially. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. Or like food
Like he
poisoning.
was never sick before. Like how did
Yeah.
this happen so suddenly?
Well,
And
and
I feel like,
I'm just saying like my thought process would be like, okay, like I'm going to finally marry this guy. I go up there and then I kind of get off the boat. The first news that I get, I know that tensions are really high between Arlon and Teod and pretty much everywhere. And then I also know that then I like find out the news that Raiden's dead. Then I go in and they're like then Iadon's a horrible person. He hates women. He probably hates everyone actually, not just women. And he's, horrible. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, also like Iadon and Raiden had a horrible relationship." I'd go, what's going on? Something's not right." Like I would not just be like, "Oh, sure, that's great. Yeah, he died of like influenza or something." No. So yeah.
yeah, I can get behind Sir Rene's suspicions.
Yeah.
She's super
There's
smart, I'm sure, so she could do it.
Yeah.
She could figure
yeah.
that out.
Hmm. And
All right.
then you had talked about Hrathen and Dilaf
Yeah,
already.
we've kind of already talked
I
about
really,
that. So
okay, but
I
dude,
think
wait. I want to talk about the scene.
Oh,
Is it their last scene when like Hrathen's trying? He's like, okay, I gotta get rid of Dilaf, and so
yeah,
he's like, all
yeah.
right, Dilaf, you gotta go back to Jordel so that we can talk, so that you can like
Yeah.
tell Wern was in for it. And Dilaf's like, okay, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna bring all my, I don't remember what they're called, but then they like it's like all of Hrathen's key followers, and it's kind of this moment where
yeah,
it's like, you're not really in control, Hrathen.
yeah. It's like you realize, yeah, that this is like almost like when you realize Elof is the true villain in a way. I don't know. And I don't. I think Delof's a great villain.
You too. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay, so
don't know.
next slide. Okay, so I just noticed that there was a lot of similarities between our supposed villain originally, I guess in part one, and Sarene lives on Cell.
Guys, we
So
are
profound.
so smart.
Wow.
Okay.
Human beings.
So what parallels do you see between the two?
Hmm. I feel like the thing that I noticed was when they really this made me I had this idea when they have that initial fight and Serene starts doing her like stupid act. And
Uh-huh.
I thought that was really interesting because literally everyone else in the room believes that she actually is that dumb. And he's
Except for Hrathen, yeah.
right, and he clearly sees, oh yeah, she's not like she knows what she's doing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, I think you also see like their zeal for what they're passionate about is like very similar. Um, I feel like I don't know, like I think I was gonna talk about this earlier. So maybe I'll try to remember. But essentially, like the whole idea with like religion being like this main driver of like politics and stuff, I feel like isn't necessarily a common, maybe it is a common theme. I guess I haven't read every fantasy book, but I feel like in the fantasy books that I've read, it's not as common of a theme. So it's interesting seeing like these two religions really driving the point here. And honestly seeing too like how dangerous it can be is like very interesting to me. Like when Evan Teo is like with calling or doing, I don't know what the verb for seoning would be,
Face
but
chat.
yeah,
FaceTime.
FaceTiming. And
Skyping.
he's like, it's horrible. Like that guy is like literally horrible. And he was like, didn't even want to like talk about Hrathen and like what he was doing with the religion stuff. Yeah, I feel like obviously they have the differences in their like religion and they have differences, I think like his their passions are obviously for different things, but I feel like their original drive is like very similar. I don't know. What else? What other thoughts do you guys
Yeah.
have?
I don't know how related this is, but I wanted to talk about the scene with Hrathen in the church. Or was it in the church? No, it wasn't in the church. It was when he talked to that priest of the other
Oh,
religion.
yes.
And
At the very end, yeah.
the priest was like, so how long have you been having these doubts? And he was like able to read Hrathen like a book. And
Yeah.
I thought that was a really interesting scene for a lot of reasons. Because it's when you start to explicitly realize that Hrathen is having a lot of internal struggle with his faith, and that he's kind of being led more by some altruism and trying to like actually save these people than actually
Can you
believing, I
like
think.
define altruism?
Like
I've heard
just the greater good. Like he's doing this for
It's
the that's
it's trying to help someone the more than
yeah,
oh,
it's
true.
like it's kind of like what that's a wind and truth thing.
yeah,
I was about to say something from Wind and Truth, but
yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, yeah, no spoilers. Yeah, and I mean I think it also shows like the contrast of like as we see Hrathen kind of falling apart, we see Sarene becoming even more like grounded,
Mm,
which I think is really cool.
yeah,
Um, and I feel like that's something that you will be able to, if you're smart enough, you can perceive it on your first read, but if you're like me, it's your second read where you're like, oh, that's actually really cool that he did that, you know?
I think we can move on. Cosmere connections. We'll probably be spoiling some minor stuff in other books.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very minor. But if you don't like anything to do with spoilers, then I'd probably skip this part.
I'll have I don't know how to do it actually, but we'll try and put bookmarks in so like
Yes, the
Yeah.
you
bookmark.
should
Yeah, it's
if you look
timestamps.
under down there in the timestamps, there's Cosmere connections. So you just skip that.
Yeah. All right. So
But
first we have Galadon, who shows up in the Way of Kings and Wind and
and
Truth.
why? Uh, I love saying that.
He's seen in the Pure Lake looking for Hoyd. If you remember that interlude. Um,
yeah, Galadon's we don't know
And
how yet. It's not been
Seance,
Neons
yeah.
in
Wind and
Rhythm.
Truth.
Stormlight.
Rhythm of War, and what?
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 Yeah.
Rhythm.
They appear in the same way that like Hrathen uses them in the little boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Interesting.
right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Quickly, what is favorite scene and
welcome
character?
back.
Yeah, welcome back if you just skipped. For me, while I really relate to Sarene, I think in this section of the book I really like reading about Hrathen. In the second half though, I guess you'll see why I like Sarene in that section particularly. And favorite scene is probably the one that I don't know. Actually, I'll think about it. You guys go.
I'll
Yeah,
I'll
go.
go
with
next.
Case,
Okay.
honestly. I loved Case's scene.
Really? I did not
What?
like. I did
I'm
not like
joking.
I'm a
I'm
Case.
joking.
certified
No,
Super
hater.
annoying.
my favorite scene is probably closer to chapter 22 or so, but that kind of section. But I do really like the section where where Hrathen kind of gets Dill off.
Oh, when
Um,
he originally acquires him?
well, no, like when he like kind of just gets him, like he kind of just like says, "Hey, you need to go somewhere else."
Oh yeah.
But I do just like a more pivotal scene, like Kurata showing. I think everyone else was say this already, but like the Raiden scenes are really just moving because it's like
Yeah.
so much suffering, but then you have something good happening, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I took the everyone's scene, but everyone's
Yeah.
favorite scene, I guess.
I'll go next. And then Elliot, you can say your predictions as well when you
Mhm.
go. So my favorite character, as I said, with Hrathen, for the reasons we've discussed. My favorite scene was probably when Brandon went out with Kurata and snuck into the king's palace, and then Kurata like snuck into her home to like leave a message for her child, and then she runs into her husband who doesn't even recognize her. I thought that was kind of heartbreaking.
I
But
agree. It's a really moving
Yeah.
scene. Sure.
yeah.
I agree with all of those that Joseph Simon said. Do you want to go last
Okay.
and
Yeah,
end?
so my favorite scene is probably I think Jonas said it. The Hrathen and Dilaf scene at the very near the very end where he's like, "Actually, I'm the one in charge here," and Dilaf's like, "I'm actually controlling you." Um, yeah, I think we all agree that Hrathen was our favorite character too.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one who actually hasn't read it. So my predictions, I definitely think Keen had something to do with the fall of Elantris. I don't know because he left 10 years ago. Elantris fell 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's um. I think that Sarene. So she's going into Elantris. So I think she's gonna go into there. I don't. I think she's not. I don't think she's gonna recognize Rowden. But I think he'll recognize her, and then he'll be like, "It's you! I thought you were dead." Which but I hope that doesn't. Feel like that's gonna happen, but I hope that it doesn't happen because I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's gonna happen, or else there would be nothing to like the.
Have you guys seen 50 First Dates? It
I
happens
never have.
really cute movie. But anyway, it's kind of like that. Not obviously not the same idea really at all, but like same theme of like the girl doesn't remember that it's like flips. Like the girl doesn't remember that she knows him, but he knows her type thing.
Mm.
And she has she has like serious amnesia, and so he's like remembering all this like amazing stuff that they've done together and like talked about. And I don't know, it just kind of funny that popped in my head. Anyway, keep
Okay,
talking.
sorry. This is okay. This is my problem. It's like okay, maybe I think Rowden might recognize her, but then that would kind of like the whole thing of her being like someone murdered Rowden. That kind of would have gone to nowhere. And I feel like even
Yeah.
though this is his first book and it's kind of rough, I feel like he wouldn't just set that up to nothing. Like
Yeah. Sanderson's
um
someone who lives and dies from setup setup and payoff basically.
Yeah.
yeah Hrathen. I don't know what's gonna happen. I think Deloff is gonna start taking more and more control, and then there's gonna be like a riot. I think
Yeah.
like a big riot. I think it's gonna be similar to Duladel, and it's yeah. And
Yeah. Questions?
Yeah, here's our email address for any of our followers that
email.
are following.
Hey, first person to email us, I will. You get $5. No, you don't.
Yeah, send us your
No.
address and we'll mail it to you. No, the
Uh,
first person who emails us, if we're still around in like, well, I guess not if we're still around. I guess like if we ever decide to make merch, they'll get free merch.
yeah,
You get
good
one
idea.
free
So let's
shirt,
write that
And
down.
you
and
get a thumbs up from us.
I
That's
will.
not family. Okay, family. Doesn't count.
No, you don't count. I will personally send, and I will also immediately personally send you a thank you email with
Yeah.
both Esther and Jonas's address.
Why? Why
What?
Esther Jonas? I don't need to have my email.
Okay,
All
no.
right.
And then Instagram, considering
There's no
Cremlings.
space, by the way. So yeah. But yeah, I'll post like something with one of our like goofy pictures, and that we took earlier during episode 0. But yeah.
Okay.
All right.
And
Here's our
And
picture
here's all the
citations if you're
citations that we're
interested.
telling you we didn't plagiarize anything. Also,
mm,
some information from here, and we will use this next week too. So yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
All right.
Until,
Uh,
Bye, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.
stay tuned
All right.
for Elantris Part 2 next
Next
week.
See you next time.
videos
See you
every
next time, buddies.
No, Esther, it's your
week.
till next time, life before death.
Strength before weakness.
journey before destination.
Unless you're reading Wind and Truth, or also known as What?
What?
Okay.